What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's TV review of the Peacock original series Twisted Metal Season 2. This will follow Episode 8, which is called Sudden Death and is directed by Ian B. MacDonald. Okay, rest in peace, Frostbite, the character we neither knew or cared about, to be fairly honest. If somebody was going to die in this episode, it had to be the one character that was invented for the TV series. It is what it is. It's an episode where we have to keep moving down the cast members and, getting rid of some of the characters themselves. But yeah, this episode was the community paintball episode of the Twisted Metal series. Community, you know what I'm talking about. This is also an episode that gives us a lot of Axel back history. Axel, of course, was a hitman for hire who goes into a house that we actually think is it's in a nice neighborhood, nice area. Find out it's a den for, of course, drug dealers. And Axel, in first person point of view, kills a bunch of people, and he realizes that there's a baby in there. And then we see scenes of him being converted into Axel, a la Logan from X-Men, X-Men universe and stuff like that, Wolverine's character. And that's the opening of this episode. It is a very much, we're going to lean into the camp and the darkness that is Twisted Metal. And then, as I said, community paintball episode. This episode turns into how do we survive a night with a group of individuals who are hunting us down that are called the Apocalypse 9, which I found out is a very kind of deep cut when it comes to Twisted Metal universe, because apparently these characters were actually not, I don't think they were created. I don't know much about them, but I know they were supposed to be in the first game, and then they were cut out of the first game. So that is very, deep cut stuff. But this episode is just for a way to have an episode to make it 12 episodes in general. This episode really didn't need to happen, to be fairly honest, but it's an entertaining one to be absolutely, in the realm of Twisted Metal. These guys are split up. Of course, we have Raven, and of course we have, Quiet and Vermin who group together, the women on the run. I think Quiet and Raven have good chemistry together. I think Vermin's like one of the most annoying characters in the show. I wish she would die. Hopefully she does die, but she is one of those characters that they've written to be so silly and over the top and stupid that it actually is grating. I feel bad for the actress because her character is interesting, to be fairly honest. She's a really creepy, really disturbing, sex-addled character that just says whatever she feels and is very gruesome and gross. But the actress that portrays her is just told to do it so over the top and silly that it's kind of boring. And it really kind of takes away from the episode itself, to be fairly honest. And that's kind of a shame because Quiet and Raven have a really interesting dynamic back and forth with one another. And they have this baggage of Vermin. It's really weird. I don't know. I really don't like it. But they go on. They're being chased by, of course, the Apocalypse 9. And they are, strong-willed and good. And Raven's chastising Quiet for, having the feelings that she does about the simple fact that John made the decision that he does. We see, of course, in the beginning, the fight that they have, the one that separates them for the episode in general. But that the episode has to end with them back together, which it does. But we have all that stuff, girl power, they're good at violence, they're good at killing people, is exactly what you expect from these characters. And then you have, of course, John and Mayhem have to group together to come to the realization that John is just kind of up his own butt. And then they have the discussions about, since they're characters that were alone and had families but are alone now. John talks about his old school back when the apocalypse first happened. Mayhem's like, oh, well, you have it much easier than I did. You actually had food. You had a car. He's like, it was difficult. I had to find these things. She's like, well, you didn't have to live in a Blockbuster or a movie theater or whatever it was, eat, expired candy and watch horror films. And I love that chemistry between the two. There's chemistry between all these characters as they're separated is actually quite fun and entertaining. And outside of Vermin, it's a really fun time to watch. Because watching John and Mayhem, who have never kind of been separated together, is, even though they've been together for quite a while in this season, is a really fun thing to watch because they work well together. When they murder one of the Apocalypse 9 by, I think they put him through a bandsaw or something like that, you see all the blood on Mayhem. Is like, did I get anything on me? It's just, there is a kind of father-daughter relationship there that kind of plays out, and it's just funny. It's goofy. They are very over the top and silly. They talk about Deep Blue Sea, which is really funny. There is a really deep cut reference to Home Alone 2 with the Talk Boy, which I actually had as a kid. and is very famous for Home Alone 2 that is used to murder one of the Apocalypse 9. And I actually appreciate that because the references that they pull into this movie, the kind of stuff, the Easter eggs, are really stuff that I dealt with as a kid, whether it be Blockbuster, the Talk Boy, the movies. Deep Blue Sea was a hugely popular movie when I was a kid, and it's just a lot of that stuff plays out, and I really appreciate that. And so you get that, and eventually they all lead back into the eventual conclusion of the episode where they all band back together. But then you have, of course, one of my favorite scenes, which is the funny, it's really kind of stupid in a lot of respects, and probably shouldn't have even been in the episode, is when the doctor is talking to Sweet Tooth, and Sweet Tooth is revealed to be sterile. And the way that Sweet Tooth kind of reacts, how he just doesn't get what sterilization means when it comes to him not being able to have kids, the doctor having to pull out the thing to kind of tell him about it, what it means for his like testicles to not have sperm in it, is really funny. And watching at the end when he confronts Stu, he's like, hey, I'm sterile, but I'm going to adopt you as my kid. And he picks up the head and he was like, hey, we should play toss with each other. It's really funny. And I love watching Stu kind of react to that in a very weird and off-put way. But just the fact that it takes time in this 32-minute episode to expand upon the insane nature that is Sweet Tooth, and the fact that he's sterile, and he thinks it's a rash, but that's eczema. And I gotta say, it doesn't belong in the episode, but it's very, very funny. I enjoy it. I love this irreverent humor. Just like, hey, we're going to bring Sweet Tooth and give him a little bit more back history about him being sterile. It's very, very funny stuff. But I think what a lot of this episode hinges on is Axel himself and his addiction to gasoline, what empowers him to become like the ultra human that he becomes. Because we have the stuff at the beginning, and then he groups up with Stu, Dave, and of course Mike, and they have an intervention in the middle of this like insane situation where it looks like a horror film. You have characters with like claws, you have characters with hooks. They're very violent. They're murdering people. They murder Frostbite in the most like disturbed way with, I think, like a treadmill or something like that. And then you have these 4 individuals who have an intervention with Axel to get to the root of why he thinks gasoline is something that he needs and not something that he should be not doing, similar to like an addict of sorts. And it's very funny. It's very played for humor. It does have some darkness where he rescues the kid, the baby, after he's killed everyone, and the baby is taken. The way it plays out is very dark and very sad and very depressing. But because this is Twisted Metal and it's very dark, irreverent humor, and it's very silly, kind of strange kind of darkness, they play it for laughs, to be fairly honest. And watching, it's very melancholy and cheeky and, campy in a lot of respects and just goofy. Dave, of course, revealing his addiction to cannibalism, and, just kind of, it's funny. Stu is just out of place when he starts talking and when Axel tells him to shut the F up, and watching Axel realize as they are eventually attacked by the Apocalypse 9 that he doesn't need the gasoline. And then they do, as they do in most of these episodes, they have like the most out of place song in this segment, where it has like the montage of Axel just taking down people from the ripping them apart, but uses a song from the Crash Test Dummies, which is an early 90s song called you've heard the song, and it's very funny. And once again, this show knows how to use the most strange versions, the most insane ways of using songs in a series. And here we get Crash Test Dummies. I mean, it's just something I was not expecting. It's like when they use like a Nine Inch Nails song or something like that, or they'll use just random songs that just you would never think in a million years they would use, and they're using Crash Test Dummies. I think that's pretty funny. It fits well into like how Axel feels, very at ease and calm. He realizes he doesn't need gasoline. I love when all the blood gets on Dave and he like starts licking himself, and he just like gets that urge for like, and like Finding Nemo with the shark. It brings back a history for him and his cannibalism. It's very funny stuff. It really is. It's like what Twisted Metal is capable of doing when it works. And then on top of everything, once Quiet and John get back together, they open the door and there's the wishing well again, and it makes you wonder what that means. Are they going to get another wish? Even though Calypso's not in here, the talk through the the speakers and stuff like that. There is a menace to that. And like I said, the way it's lit, the way this world works, especially in the horror elements, if it does feel like a horror type of episode. Even Raven comments that they need to fix the lights. So it's very referential on like the things that it's, you know, aping off of and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, that's you know, sudden death in a nutshell. It's not a Twisted Metal episode per se, in the simple fact that like there's no car combat, which is a little disappointing, but it allows these characters to have some more dimension, which is something they need. It allows these characters to explore different versions of themselves, to like explore the uniqueness of themselves. I think the weakness of it are some of the characters are a little too goofy, like Vermin. I think Quiet and Raven have a little too campiness to them. I think John and Mayhem are a little too campy. I think everything is a little too campy sometimes, but I still think this is a very well put together episode. It's well directed, it's fun, it's entertaining. And if you're at this point in Twisted Metal, you've kind of gone with the humor, you kind of understand what it's trying to do, and so therefore it's a competent episode that is a filler episode in a lot of respects, but I think is a very fun what these series try to do when they're like going a little bit above and beyond the source material. So once again, it's like that paintball episode in Community where it's like kind of off kilter and really interesting and fun and entertaining, and gives the characters a little bit of dimension and stuff like that. So overall, I really like the episode. I think it's fun and entertaining. It's not the perfect episode that you'll like, but for Twisted Metal, I think it's perfectly fine. So for my overall score, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. I think it really is a lot of fun. So there you go. Anyways, with that said, that is my take on Twisted Metal Season 2, Episode 8, which is called Sudden Death. In the comments below, what do you think of the overall dynamics of this episode? What do you think of what it did, how it played out? Was there anything that you really liked, didn't like, all that good stuff? So let me know in the comments. But if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button, the Join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button, and we'll see you for the next episode. Peace out, guys.